A big part of this course is your field experience. In fact, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to be talking about some of the documentation that you need to have in place and where you do your field experience. Regarding documentation, you do need to have a TB test that's been conducted within the last year. You need to have proof of that TB test. You'll submit that to the site that you are working at. You may also be asked for a statement of health and a confidentiality statement. Where do you do your field experience? Well, if you're within 30 miles of Point Loma, we require that you do your field experience at Point Loma. We have a special Early Childhood Learning Center, affectionately known as the ECLC, that was especially created for students like you and this field experience. The site has teachers who you'll meet in just a minute, has teachers who not only are trained and credentialed to work with children, but also trained to work with you. If you're working at a site that is not at Point Loma, an off-site, you're going to need to make sure that you get some documentation in place. You're going to secure from the course instructor a form that is completed by that site. Before you start your hours, the instructor needs to approve the site. Don't start your hours until you get that approval. Before you start your field experience hours, you're probably going to need about 2 hours that you need to orient to the place. And during these 2 hours, you're going to get your shift. You're going to find out what the rules are. If you're at the ECLC on Point Loma campus, there's a special workshop and tour that you are going to participate in to make sure that you have all these things down. Okay, let's talk about those field experience hours. There's 10 of them that you need to conduct. What you're going to do is you're going to work for an hour with children, playing with them, interacting with them, and for each of those hours, each shift that you work, you're going to write up a journal. That journal will be written of what you did during that hour, a reflection on what you did, and very importantly, you're going to apply some knowledge and some of the theories that we've talked about in the class in your writing, in that reflection. In fact, I encourage students to, before they submit all of their reflective journals at the end of the semester, go ahead and especially look at those earlier ones and make sure that you're applying parallel play, cooperative learning, you're applying Piaget, Vygotsky, Erikson to those journal write-ups, because you probably have a lot going on that you didn't even realize pertain to the class. So those are your 10 field experience hours that you're going to do. You need to have a journal write-up for each of those hours. You'll also have some sort of sheet that you complete at your site that documents when you work those hours, and I will get that from your site coordinator at the end of the course. Your instructor will. The other thing I want to mention is, and we're not really talking about it in this video, is you'll have 4 observations that you need to do. Observations are different than field experience hours. During the field experience hours, you interact with the children. You're on your knees playing with them. The observations, you're going to be behind the fence, or you're going to be in a room observing the children. You're going to download one time the form that's listed on Canvas for observation, and within that one form, that packet, there are 4 different observations that are labeled. You'll conduct observation 1, write it up, schedule another time to do observation 2. There does need to be some time between each observation. So that's the time that you're going to be spending at your field. You're a little bit nervous? Well, big purpose of this video is to give you some strategies for working with children. I hope you enjoy meeting 2 awesome teachers from the Point Loma Early Childhood Learning Center.
be mindful of what you're wearing, how it's covering you. One of the things that we run into, maybe because we're a little bit older, is we wear the cowl necks, so that when you go down, it opens. So we always make sure we're wearing a camisole or a undershirt, a tank top underneath, because our shirts open. So if you have like a loose shirt like that, make sure that whatever's underneath is covering you wholly or completely. And then also be careful that we haven't had this problem recently anymore. I'm thinking because we stop and talk about it. But we used to have where you had the big openings here and opening, and then somebody would just be wearing one of those bandos underneath, and that's all. Well, that's not being very modest. And so, yeah, just make sure you're covered. And you want to also think about whether or not you care that your clothes gets dirty. So you're not going to be wanting to wear your most fancy designer things if you're going to get mad that they get some paint on them. And I've seen that happen. I'm dirty. So yeah, so please, be mindful that you make care that something gets some paint on it. Now we buy all the stuff that says it's washable, but sometimes, especially the purples and the reds, just don't come out easily. So be mindful of that. You're also going to want to wear a comfortable shoe. There's not a rule for like no flip-flops, but again, the children are running fast. They could step on your toes, and if you're very sensitive and you know that, then don't choose to wear that. Personally, Mrs. G. Lombardo and I, and Mrs. Sanders, we wear a whole encompassing shoe. So if we're wearing a flip-flop, it's the kind with the back strap, and the children are not allowed to wear flip-flops to school. They have to wear something with a back strap that holds their foot in it. So you're welcome to do it if you want to, but just be mindful of your own comfort and what you can do and move around. You may be running, you'll be on the floor. And if you're on the floor with your flip-flops, I'm going to ask you to please keep your flip-flops on, because a lot of times people will sit down on the floor, they take their flip-flops off, sit on the side, and we can't have your shoes off because everybody's going to want to take their shoes off. Right? It models behavior, and the children do what they see. So we need that. Anything else for clothes, you think? That was good, huh? Be aware of the shortness level, maybe because you're going to be on the ground. So that as well, getting up and down off the ground too. Now what this is saying is that you understand that every child has a right to their privacy, and we want them to feel comfortable growing and learning in their environment. And we want you to be cognizant of not utilizing the children's names outside of your classroom. You don't even really need to use them in the classroom, but if you do, you're in your classroom and you're having a discussion, and maybe you have one experience with Maria and you have one experience with Maria, and she's saying, oh, Maria's always so frustrated. I've never seen Maria frustrated. She's awesome. She's always playing. She does this, she does that. And then, well, when are you there? Well, I'm there at lunch. Oh, well, I'm there at Play Outdoors. Well, maybe Maria's frustrated because she don't like lunchtime. And then, so maybe when you're in your classroom and you're discussing these things, who she plays with, how she plays, you might discuss that in your classroom. And we want to make sure that they are not worried that even if it's good stuff, you don't want to be talking about their children out there. One time, the story that we hear is there were some aides, like at a Denny's, or some field experiences that were at a Denny's, talking about a child who was having so much difficulty, and right there in the next booth, and using the name, and right there in the next booth was that child's grandparents. And it was just so devastating that here is people talking, kind of almost, it's just so sad. So yeah, like gossiping about these children. And so please respect the children and the family's privacy by not discussing. Now, sure, oh my goodness, one of the children at school said the funniest thing today, and say the funny thing, but don't use their names. Don't use their names. The child, yeah, this child. That's a really good way to say it. I get so used to that, people don't know if my friends are boys or girls. And I suppose if you did have difficulty with something, you could let Mrs. Rodehaver know, and then we would, I'm thinking like, I don't know, maybe you have trouble bending your hip or your knee and it's hard for you to get down on the ground, I don't know, and maybe it would limit you a little. You could let us know so that we can make sure that we're, not telling you to do things you can't do. But otherwise, if generally you're in good health, this is what this is stating. Is honesty. Children, when they're 3 and 4, are not liars. And a lot of times, parents, you'll hear them say, oh, my child is lying, and I don't know what to do because all they do is lie. And children at 3 and 4 are imaginative storytellers. They really don't know the difference between reality and make-believe. They're just messing with it all the time, playing with it, thinking, playing make-believe, and it's real. It is so real for them that it is real. Then every Monday morning they come to school and they say, I went to Disneyland this weekend. And you're like, you did? Tell me about it. And they'll tell you something and you're like, did they go to Disneyland? No, I don't think so. They did that last month. But every Monday they went to Disneyland. And they're not lying. You know, they're remembering, they're sharing, it's vivid, it's alive in their mind. And so it would be so crushing to tell a child, nah, you're lying, you know. You would never do this at this age. They wouldn't even get it, right? So sometimes if you're really trying to figure out what's real or what's not real, you can ask them, is this a real story or is it a pretend story? Or, you know, you could go about it in that way. Or just tell them, wow, that sounds interesting. Tell me more about that. And just let them to share their stories. So children, sometimes, you know, that can be something because they're like always telling stories. But that's their world and that's their life. So your pre-operational child, what do? They are always asking questions. They're always asking questions. Why does this do that? Why does this do that? Well, one thing we want to do at the center is we don't want to give them answers. We want to get them to keep thinking. So when they're asking why, well, that's an interesting question. What do you think? And let them ponder and let them consider. And wow, that's good thinking. I wonder if that might be right. Can we check on that? Let's check it out. You know, what happens when you mix red and blue? Gosh, that's a good question. Let's see if we can try. Or let's ask your teacher. Maybe we could do that. So those kinds of things. And then they're always talking to themselves. Always. Because they're trying to figure out, I'm going to put this here, and then I'm going to move it, and if I put this here, it'll build. And they're always talking, constant chatter. They don't see other people's perspectives. It's just the way they think. So if you don't agree with them, then that's when they can have a meltdown. So you have to help them understand with those words, I don't really get that. Tell me more about it. Or, I didn't know that. That never happened to me before. They love it when you are authentic. When you're able to share your true self with them. They can tell if you're disinterested. They can tell if you'd rather be somewhere else. So try to just be like they're a friend and you want to get to know them better. And when you do this kind of thing, they really open up and share and talk about their true authentic self. And sometimes it's absolutely, and they love this, if you share something like a story from your childhood. Like if they tell you, oh, I got cut because I fell and I scraped my hand on my bicycle. And you could say, wow, what did you do? Or you share a little bit about what happened there. And then you could tell them, well, when I was little, I fell down once too. And I got cut so bad on my knee, I had to get stitches. And then they'll tell you, wow, my brother fell and he got stitches. You know, and then they love it to have this connections because they're right now getting out of this all about me and trying to understand other people's perspectives. But it's a little bit of a stretch sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
They're still growing.
Right, they're growing. They believe that things are real. Like today, the little animal or the little person was talking to me, telling me what he wanted to do. Shh, quiet, everybody. I have to hear what he says. Oh, he doesn't want to do that. Do you guys want him to do it? Oh, the children would love it if you would. Oh, he says he'll try. And they're just, whoa. And they believe, you know, they like the pretend and the make-believe. So you'll see us using puppets and you'll see us using animals and felt stories and different things like that might keep their attention and bring the story a little bit more to life. Also, they love it when things are kind of magical and that, you know, it's all that imagination, You'll also see them saying nonsense words, all of this chatter, 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 blah, blue, blue, blee, glah, glue, and they'll just walk and say nonsense. Just playing with sounds, hearing things.
Usually when they're pretending.
When they're pretending something else. If they're a cat or a dog too, or birds. So they'll make up things, and they'll just play with their words, and it's all a part of their discovery. The last one here is they take metaphors and figurative expressions in a literal sense. So they're not going to understand things like when you say to them, oh my goodness, you are such a smarty pants. Smarty pants? I'm no such thing. I'm not pants. And so those kinds of things just don't make any sense to this age. So you have to be very careful. One of the children say, oh, you're killing me. And we're like, no, please. And she doesn't have any idea what it means. And the other children are like, what? And those kinds of things that just make no sense. They're so visual. When you say these phrases and metaphors and idioms, it's just, they just see it. And so then it doesn't make any sense. And the only reason they pick up things and kind of know what that might mean is because it's in their family. So it doesn't even mean that anymore. It means however they're using it. So it's something that we just want to not do, and we want to use our language intentionally and be precise with our requests and what we're talking about and how we're using our phrases.
Want to make sure that if you see a child crying, you validate their feelings. First things first, validate their feelings.
With your words, you say, I see that you're sad.
Yeah.
I see that you look sad. Are you okay? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you validate that you see that what's happening is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if there's danger though.
Right, if there's danger,
you have to take, usually it's over a toy. It's usually over a toy because
if they're on top of each other.
Yeah, if they're on top of each other, it's okay to pick up another child or
sit between them.
Move your body in between the two children.
Or get a teacher.
Yeah, get a teacher. Get a teacher. But if it's like immediate, then that's my first instinct always. And then get a teacher over and we'll stand next to you. Totally. We're always aware of every situation. So validate their feelings and tell them, I see that you're sad. What happened? Ask them what was going on. Ask them what the situation was before you just go ahead
and help them to know that they're taking turns to tell you. I'm going to listen to this child first, and as soon as they tell me what happened, then you can tell me what happened. And then that way they know, so they're not both talking over each other, and they're learning the communication skills.
Mm-hmm. So then one child will say, I wanted this toy, it was in my hand, and the other child took it from me. So then you say, oh, okay, so maybe we both wanted to play, or what should we do about this? You ask them, how can we solve this problem?
Right.
There's two of you and one toy. And usually they come up with a solution.
Oh, they come up with such good solutions. And sometimes they'll say, well, never mind, he can have it. I'll get something else.
I do that all the
Yeah,
time.
that happens a lot. Or they say, we can find another one, let's look for another one. So that happens as well. But you give the children each a turn to discuss what's going on. Sometimes they don't even realize someone else's perspective. Somebody may have been playing with something, they walked away, the other child came to play with it, and then the other child comes back and sees the child playing with the thing they just had, so they snatch it away. Well, in their mind, they were playing with it. Why would this other child be touching it anyway? And the second child has no idea that anybody was there first. And sometimes when they get to hear what's going on, they're like, oh, okay. And then we'll just willingly give it back or figure out a solution to take turns. We also have timers in our room, and sometimes we'll use the timers so that they can take turns. And we try not to say, you guys have to share this. Because sharing kind of sounds like we're both going to do it at the same time. Let's share the book. We both sit and share the book together. We look at it together. We're going to take turns. You get to have it. It's yours for a little while, and then I get to have it. So we try not to use the word share, because it creates different ideas in their mind, and try to help them understand that we're taking turns. Or we're both going to use it. Sometimes we both use it, but we'll use that too. Let's both use it, but we don't really say share. Okay, so that was conflict. We talked a little bit about talking to young children. We want to get at their level. Yeah, we want to give them choices. We want to ask them for their help. I need help putting this puzzle away. I need your help to put this puzzle away. Earlier today I said you don't want to ask them questions that they can say no to. So would you help me put away this puzzle? No. But if you say, I need your help to put away the puzzle. Oh, well, okay. And it gives a different thought in their mind, not just a, I don't want to. So, I'm going to help you, Or I wonder how fast we can put this puzzle away. And then they'll come and they'll do it so quickly. So this is a little bit of the redirecting too. How do you redirect children's behavior? There's a little bit of that too. You make a fun game. You kind of distract them with new information. That's redirecting, right? Yeah. Basically, yeah. You make a game out of it. So the redirecting. Sometimes that's validating too. Say, for example, in the morning, a child is very sad because their mother just left, and you really want to get their sadness off of their mind. You would use some redirecting tactics there by validating their feelings. And I understand that you're sad. When I have to leave my mom and dad, I feel sad too. Tell me some special things about your mom that you love to do. And now I've redirected, because now they're going to start thinking about fun things they do with their mom. And if they can't think of something, you can give ideas. Well, do you ever do any baking with your mom? Because sometimes I make cookies with my mom. Oh, and then you've redirected them, and now they're not thinking about the sadness anymore, and now they're thinking about a happy thoughts and happy feelings. And that's another way to do that. And that's just an example of being sad or something. But it could be redirecting because they don't want to clean toys, or they don't want to come to snack. And so then that's when you offer choices. So both how talking to them and how redirecting them, you offer choices. You offer choices. And that usually helps them. 2 choices. 2 is good. Yes.
You're here after a nap.
That's a perfect example. They have to put their shoes on. So you don't say, would you like to put your shoes on? No. You say, it's time to put your shoes on. Would you like to put on your left shoe or your right shoe first? There's ways to get them to think instead of just be disagreeing or something like that. And that's really helpful. Also, I think right there too, you guys, you want to tell them what to do. You want to put into their mind what they should be doing. So if you see a child standing on the couch, you're not going to say to the child, don't stand on the couch. You're going to want, because then they've got the idea that, well, what did you just put in their head? Don't stand on the couch, don't stand on the couch. And they just hear the negative, they picture it, and they picture standing on the couch. So you need to give them the picture of the proper behavior. So your words in that case would be, the couch is for sitting. I need you to sit on the couch. You can stand on the floor, but you need to sit on the couch. And they get all of those proper ideas in their head. Same thing with running on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is for walking. We can swim on the sidewalk slowly. And so we'll do silly things to get outside to, or fly, or whatever we do. So you're going to want to fill their images with what you want them to do, not with what you don't want. So we need to use our walking feet. We need to sit on the couch. Sometimes when they were wrestling in the classroom today, they were wrestling all over the floor, and I said, I need you to save your wrestling for playing outside. That looks like an outside game. I need you to save it. Oh, okay. And they just did. Center, you're going to have one of these 3 that you'll be observing. Mind you, everything overlaps. So all 3 of these things are happening at the same time, but which one are you focused on? You're focused on cognitive today. So, say for example, a child is playing pretend, and they are pretending they're a mommy baking a cake. And what do you notice cognitive while they are pretending to be a mommy baking a cake? You're noticing that they know that the cake gets flour, the cake gets sugar, and these are cognitive things. They've experienced it before, they're recalling the steps, they're knowing how to do it, and it's part of their recall and their memory is their cognitive. Even if it's something learned like knowing shapes, knowing numbers. However, while this child is doing this baking and being a mommy, you will also be if you're not doing cognitive now you're seeing the exact same play, but now you're focusing on social emotional. You're knowing that this child knows that there's a mommy, and maybe this mommy has some children, or sometimes they know that the aunt is the sister or something. But then you get a sense of what their social knowledge is and how people interact with each other. So if you're focusing on social, it's going to be their interaction. It's going to be their level of play. Are they playing alone? Are they playing with each other? Is she alone being a mommy? Is someone with her? If you're focusing on physical, then you're going to be watching how they're grasping the spoon as they're stirring the pot. Whether or not they are having trouble stirring and standing still, maybe they lose their balance. And so when you come, and this is our experience with you guys there, is it's confusing because you see a child doing activity and they're doing everything. But what's your focus? Is your focus cognitive that day? Is it social emotional, or is it physical? And we will talk you through every day when you leave. You come and we have to sign you out. You can find myself, Mrs. Jill Lombardo, Mrs. Rodehaver can sign you out. And she'll say, so what did you observe today? Well, I did cognitive. And tell me about that. And you'll say, well, somebody was sorting colors and then you'll explain what you saw. Or I'm not sure, I think, and then we'll kind of, scaffold you through that. And by 2 or 3 weeks in, you guys are like, oh, I got this. But sometimes it's confusing in the beginning. But the reason it's confusing is because every activity involves all three. But they're all intertwined. Everybody's doing everything at the same time. Cognitive, recall, memory, imagination, prior knowledge. Your cognitive, your social and emotional. It's your interactions. It can be your mood. While you're playing, do you get mad fast, or are you able to regulate your emotions? So it can be like your mood. And then the types of play are part of social emotional. Oh, and how you're able to use your language for your conflict resolution is also part of social emotional. Are they able to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm playing with that? Or do they freak out because you touched it and now they're, so sad and they can't think straight anymore? That's part of social emotional, how they deal with their conflict. Yeah? And then their physical, that's just going to be how they're moving. You guys are going to learn about your fine motor skills and then your gross motor skills. So your fine motor skills are all those small pincher, grabbing, and then your gross motor skills are going to be your big movements with your whole body. Jumping, running, climbing, balancing, The rules of the playground.
So the retaining wall, it's like here on us, but to a child it's like probably up to on some of them. So they have to walk around the retaining wall. Walk around. That's a bit all day long.
Oh yeah, around. We say around the rocks.
Around the rocks. And you guys too. When you
yes,
are
please.
On the playground, please model that behavior, because then if the child sees you do it, they will, of course, do it.
Do it too.
Yeah. So the retaining wall, walk around the rocks. Slide, the blue slide, it's smaller. They can go up the slide, that's fine, and down the slide, obviously. The yellow slide is a lot bigger. It's like this big compared to the blue slide.
More steep,
They have to go, they have to go down the slide.
Down the yellow slide.
Down the yellow slide. They cannot climb up the slide.
And when they're doing the blue slide, if they're doing a thing where they're going up one and down one, a teacher should be there, with them.
Yeah,
it's usually so because they'll get on top of each other.
Yeah.
They'll forget to do one at a time. So generally, and if you feel uncomfortable ever, just get a teacher. They're really getting very active over here. I think I need help. by all means, you know.
Oh, yeah,
And especially if you see children being mean or cruel to each other and you're not exactly sure how to help them use their language, please get a teacher. The children are not allowed to hit each other and grab each other and say, you can't play with us. That's not allowed. And if you're not exactly sure how to get them to include each other and you use appropriate language with each other, a teacher know. And also, sometimes, you know, you kind of like interrupt a child's world. And when you walk up and say, oh, I see that you're sad, can I help you? And you know, you come down and talk to them, they'll say, leave me alone, and they'll even like whack at you. Do not let them whack at you. I cannot let you hit me. I'm going to have to get your teacher to come over here and talk to you. Let somebody know because they need to take a break. They need to have a discussion. Sometimes, you know, something else is going on, and we're trying to watch and care for the whole child. So, and a lot of those kinds of things happen more outside because it's a lot of stimulation. So please don't let the children be cruel to you, you know, or to each other. Let a teacher know so that we can, even if it's totally chill, I think they're having trouble. You want to come over here and listen to this? And we can even just, you know, we don't have to blame them or anything, but we can come over and hear, and then we can intervene as needed.
Yeah.
Any more playground rules?
Oh, sand.
Oh, yes, what about
They
it?
cannot throw sand.
Yeah.
It's in our eyes, it hurts.
And are we going to tell them, don't throw the sand? What could we say? The sand is for digging.
Yeah.
You can put sand in the pail. You can build with the
Sand
sand.
down low.
Keep the sand down low.
Mhm.
And then make them aware. When sand goes in the air, it gets in our friends' hair and their ears and their eyes, and that hurts. We need to keep the sand down low. Any more? There's
They
so
can't
many.
climb the fence either. Feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground.
You see them because they're like curious,
Yeah.
starting to climb the fence. That's so dangerous.
Right, feet on the ground.
And the trees too. Feet on the ground. The trees.
And I'll usually tell them the trees are not for climbing. I need you, if you want to climb, you can go climb the structure or you can climb the tire, but the trees are not for climbing. I need your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Any more? Pretty much. We encourage exploration.
Yeah.
If they want to take a little bit of sand and mix it with some wood chips and they're creating something, yeah. But if they're filling buckets and filling buckets and filling buckets and taking all the sand and make a pile in the wood chips, if you want to make a pile of sand, let's make it in the sand. So, you know, some of that, it just depends. Because we want them to explore and to, you know, be inventive and creative, but oh my. So it just depends. What's going on. When they're climbing the structure, they need to use two hands to climb. So if they're holding a bucket of sand and they're trying to take it onto the structure, I can hold that for you while you climb because you need to use two hands to climb because we want them to have all of their, you know, awareness about them when they're doing these things that could cause them to lose their balance and fall. So, and it just depends on how much stuff is up there. What are they doing with it? What kind of game are they playing? Some days hula hoops can go on the structure. Some days hula hoops can't. We have to use our judgment. What are they doing with it? What's it for? Maybe they're taking it up there safely just to watch it roll down. Maybe that's okay. And maybe somebody's created a safety zone. So, and they're so good about all of these discussions. So, yeah, let's think of a safe way to do this. And what if a teacher comes over here and makes sure no one comes down? Safety zone, you know. And then let's see what happens. So, there are some things that can be okay. It just depends on who's there, how many are there, and what's their energy level, you know. But we want to keep them safe above all things. So sometimes when they're running around the structure, we try to keep them all going the same way. Because if some of them are going left and some are going right, they crash into each other. So well, let's all run the same way. Same thing like on the bicycle track. Everybody should be going the same way. We want them to wear helmets when they ride the bikes. They have helmets. We try not to let them play behind the little playhouse because we can't see them back there. So that too. If they're in the house, it's a good idea. If there are children in the house, they probably ought to have a teacher over there, or you know, because we can't listening and making sure. Because you'll be surprised. I know they're only 4 years old, but they're saying we're going to play. We're not going to let so and so play, and this is just not okay. And the children will call you Miss or Mr. So Miss Emily, you know, Mr. Randall, that kind of thing. And that's what they'll call you. And we call you students. And so when we call the children children, when we're talking to the children, we call you like students because you're not teachers. You can ask Miss Emily for help. And they'll say, but she's not a teacher, she's a student. Because I want Miss Emily to take me to the bathroom. Miss Emily cannot take you to the bathroom. She's a student, she's not a teacher. She's not wearing a yellow name tag. The aides, the ones who work for us are wearing yellow name tags. Those are the aides who are fingerprinted and then licensed, California licensed to work there. So remember that you're not allowed to be alone with a child or take them to help them if they want. Sometimes you're so helpful. You're helpful-minded. You want to help them get some water in their bucket and go in the classroom and get it. Well, you're not allowed to do that. You need to find a teacher to go get water with you. So those kinds of things. I have a red name tag. You need to find a teacher with a yellow name tag, or tell your teacher, which would be one of us. Let a teacher know, especially a child too hurts themselves, like they bump. They just fell down. They said they're okay, but I think their elbow scraped. Let a teacher know.
Yeah. Or if they hit their head or something, and they're not, even if they're not crying.
Yeah, but let us know that it happened. Even if they say, no, I'm fine. And then that way we can keep observing them and watching and making sure they're all right. Also, get on the floor. We don't want you to come in and sit on the couch and just watch. We want you to be active with the children. So sit down on the floor, be at their level. Come in, and come down and say, hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm going to play here for an hour today. What are you doing? And that kind of thing. And so please feel free to, and maybe it's a little nervous, it's not as comfortable for you, so just sit on the floor. Sit near children who are playing. They're so used to us adults being around that they'll probably invite you to play or ask you for something. Yeah?
Yeah, and circle time too.
Oh yeah, circle.
Sit on your lap. Just like sit crisscross.
Right.
Kind of do what the children do.
Right.
If you're just like standing, they'll just like.
That a great thing. Do what they're doing. So if we're playing the hokey pokey, we want you to play the hokey pokey. Okay, we need you to participate because if you're just standing there, they're gonna go, well, she's not doing it. I don't have to do it. So if we're doing stuff and we're, if you have a dog, I need you to show me a signal by patting your head that you have a dog at home. Well, if you have a dog, go ahead and do it too. And so participate, and then that helps them to be involved as well.
Piaget's pre-operational child. In fact, this is very relevant to your field experience write-up. We're going to be going through a list that was developed by Professor Susan Rogers, who's the Point Loma Nazarene University Director of the Early Childhood Learning Center. Egocentric behavior is probably the most apparent characteristic of the pre-operational child. Egocentrism is manifested in many ways. Some of the ways are the child's use of constant questions, persistent chatter even though no one's listening, belief that everyone feels and thinks as she does, belief in animism, belief that natural phenomena are man-made, constantly questioning and investigating new things, belief in magic rituals, belief in the realism of words, use of onomatopoeia, or words that sound like that which the objects that make them, such as choo choo and bow wow for train and dog. Takes metaphors and figurative expressions in a literal sense. Games. Games with competition and rules mean little or nothing to the child at this age. She does not understand winning or losing or outdoing others. Each child plays or works for herself for the fun of the activity. Play for the operational child is a transition between purely individualized behavior, such as parallel play, and the socialized play that follows. The child receives much pleasure from participating in a group. Piaget calls this honorable fraternity of those who know the game. Through play, the pre-operational child experiments with adult roles. She becomes a nurse, a truck driver, a teacher. She assumes the language, actions, and characteristics she is familiar with as she tries out these roles. Social behavior. Social interests increase as the child progresses through this pre-operational stage. He engages in more communicative, less egocentric talk, although the latter type continues to appear for several years. Games become increasingly social. The child begins to want and need other children, not just to tolerate them. Children become quite imitative of each other during this period. Funny or odd noises or gestures bring about a successive parade of repeaters. Centration. Centration is another major characteristic of the preoperational intelligence. By this, Piaget means focusing upon compelling features of which is perceived to the exclusion of other aspects. The child sees an object only in relation to its particular function. Transformation. Transformation is another characteristic of the preoperational thinking. By this, Piaget is referring to the fact that the preoperational child is unable to see a transformation as a whole from the original state to its final state. He is unable to put the whole picture together with the start and finish. Conservation is the ability to see that qualities or inherent properties of objects do not change despite a change in physical appearance. Language. Language at the preoperational level, though communicative at times, is often non-communicative or egocentric. The child merely talks as he plays with no intention of communication to others. It is done seemingly for pleasure or because the child does not yet differentiate fully between words and things or acts. Children talk to themselves even when they are in groups. However, they are beginning to use words and to verbalize mental images. Arguments. Arguments are familiar to the observer of the preoperational child. These are verbal squabbles. They may turn into vigorous statements of conflict. There is little interest in persuading or convincing. Words and reality are not well differentiated at this stage. Calling names does hurt feelings terribly and should be strongly discouraged by teachers and caregivers. Honesty. Honesty is a characteristic greatly misunderstood in the preoperational child. Piaget reminds us that lying, for lack of a better word, is common to almost all children in this intuitive stage. Seldom does this aged child intend to deceive. The facts get mixed up in his mind, or the story may just sound better his way. Also, if one child relates an experience, others will claim to have done the same thing. Guilt. Guilt is nothing more than getting caught misbehaving, which is nothing more than disobedience to adult rules, seemingly not really wrong. However, the child does accept punishment as the expected just consequence of misbehavior. To the younger children, the fairest punishment is the most severe. These are all aspects that are relevant to writing up your journal, your reflective journal. You'll also want to look at other theorists. We've just covered Piaget here, but you'll see lots of relevance with Vygotsky, Erikson, looking at attachment, social emotional development, looking at the physical domains, differentiating between fine motor skills, gross motor skills.
We've given you a lot of information in this video. I hope you're feeling more prepared. Some rules: keep the child safe. Never be alone with the child. This field experience provides a great opportunity for you to interact with children and to hone some skills of how do you talk with children? How do you guide them? You'll have lots of opportunity in your reflective journals to reflect on strategies, skills that you've used in working with these children. Some skills will go well. Some things won't go so well. The journal's where you reflect on them. Also in the journal, you want to make sure that you apply some of the knowledge and theories that we talk about in the class. I hope you're feeling more ready